Today we look at Muv-Luv, the first entry in the well-loved visual novel series from Age. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce it. But before anything else, Muv-Luv has two parts. The first is Extra, the second is Unlimited. Delving into Unlimited at all means spoiling Extra. I already did a review solely on Extra without any spoilers for that, and without any discussion of Unlimited, and I'll be treating this review as an extension of the previous one. If you want to check that out, or want to avoid the biggest spoilers this game holds, then check out that review. It should be in the cards in the top right corner that will direct you to that video. Now, returning to the game. Muv-Luv is a traditional visual novel. The series has been around for a long time, but it took one of the largest game Kickstarter campaigns to get an official translation and release it. It is currently available on PC through Steam, and the follow-up called Muv-Luv Alternative has a release expected later this year. Both titles are also expected to be released for the PlayStation Vita in the near future as well. This Muv-Luv trilogy of titles between Extra, Unlimited, and Alternative has a lot of clout in the visual novel community. Okay, well, Alternative does, but a great follow-up cannot be fully appreciated in isolation from its predecessors. Extra and Unlimited are the first two parts of this Muv-Luv trilogy, so do they meet the hype? Let's find out. Okay, let's get the hard stuff out of the way. This is a visual novel. Gameplay section done, right? Right? Okay, I'll be more specific. This visual novel takes on a choice-based system with no complementary mechanics. It just acts on a point system that uses reactions to scenarios to create affection from different characters. In both Unlimited and Extra, the plot deviates based on which character has the most affection. Each deviates at a designated point, with the plot changing in Extra significantly afterwards, with new scenarios opening up for each character. In Unlimited, the story is only varied slightly, and the overall plot is constant. It's a visual novel. If you don't know what to expect, then that's what you should expect. Now you know. Spoiler warning! If you want to avoid all spoilers of Muv-Luv Extra and the general premise of Unlimited, then back away now. And yes, even the premise for Unlimited is immensely spoilery and best not known until you get to it without any spoilers. Feel free to check out my review of Extra alone if you want to avoid those. Though for this, my TLDR spoiler-free opinion on the story is that Extra has an entertaining main story with much less enticing side stories. They deviate way too much from the actually enticing main plot, and the characters alone can't stop those side stories from feeling just like filler. As for Unlimited, it drops the precepts of having significantly deviating plot and replaces it with a more engrossing mystery story that really delves into the depth of the characters. It's an excellent follow-up to Extra, and may be worth going through Extra alone if Extra itself doesn't appeal to you. It does have a share of problems, and it can get quite formulaic at times. Each of those formulaic sections is actually quite interesting though, but quite a few of the characters lack real strong connections to the main plot on display because of it. It's much better filler than Extra, but it still has sort of that feel. Okay, and done. Again, spoiler warning, the plot is good, it has a nice mystery aspect to it, and that's what you need to know. Jump into it if you haven't done this before. You've been warned. Okay, with that out of the way, Muv-Luv is an interesting game from a story perspective. It plays on the concept of building itself and reversing expectations. Well, sort of. What might be the most defining feature of the story is the genre shift, but we'll get back to that. Muv-Luv Extra starts the childhood friend duo of Takaru and Sumika having their daily lives interrupted by the unimaginably rich girl called Maya, with Maya pronouncing her intentions to claim Takaru for her own. The oblivious Takaru is caught in the crossfire of the two's affections. Yeah, it's cliche. And like I said in my Extra review, it's cliche in a weirdly good way. Even if it just stands as a sort of parody, the plot points and characters don't back away from their tropes. It's just written extremely well. Little details make the story come to life, and stuff like Takeru and Samika's banter is some of my favorite I've ever seen in VN, or game period, or anime, or TV show, or movie. It's just great. As the story progresses, Takeru gets to choose between the different girls in his life. The main story route involves Samika and Maya, so choosing either will unveil the details of each's affections and the histories of Takeru himself. There isn't really a ton more to it. Well, that is until you start Unlimited. Starting during the extra storyline, Takeru ponders his recently overheard declarations of love from both Samika and Maya, only to pass out in a hot spring. When he wakes up, he finds himself in a room at his home. Outside is less familiar, with the town he lived in crumbling to ruin. After recognizing the machine nearby is a mecha robot rusting nearby, it becomes apparent that this isn't Extra's genre anymore. As he's arrested by the local military, his lack of existence in this world catches the eye of the higher-ups. Without anywhere else to go, Takeru excitedly agrees to enroll in the mech pilot training program. Why is he excited? Because it's awesome. Finding himself surrounded by alternative versions of his friends from the Extra timeline minus Samika, Unlimited is the story of Takeru coming to terms with his sudden life-changing situation and the mysteries that this new world holds for him. As a premise, it's still very interesting. Returning to the building of concepts, Unlimited sort of acts as a prologue for its sequel. While I haven't played Alternative, and I don't know much about it, which is the sequel to this, mind you, the sort of vague confirmation from my friend, the sort of vague discussions of Alternative on the comments in my channel as I played through this in a Let's Play, as well as the game itself feeling sort of like a prologue and having many unanswered questions, they all speak towards this seeming like the case, and it works really well as a way to get you into Muv-Luv Alternative at the very least. I've talked about this before, especially in my previous video, but Muv-Luv's presentation is great. The art is solid, the music is decent or better many times, the UI takes advantage of the alternative engine for new releases to create a more cinematic feel. Basically, it has subtitles instead of text boxes, but adds to that the first-person perspective with a surprisingly good camera work for a visual novel and well-executed sound design to create a much more lively atmosphere than most every other visual novel I can imagine. Combine that with the writing style, and it provides a presentation that feels dynamic. I covered this in my extra review, and it sustained it in the Unlimited section of the game. Admittedly though, the opportunities for the fluidity of the storytelling have actually lowered to lower lows and higher highs in Unlimited, but Unlimited itself offers a contrasting concept to Extra, and it is impressive how well the art style and music work in both settings. The UI is altered visually, but functionally it is the same, but it does go well with adapting everything to the shift in tone and premise. Other than that, there really isn't much to say that I didn't say in the Extra review. The story comes together from the cohesive nature of the presentation and plot's interactions. I would definitely say that Muv-Luv is largely entertaining because of its storytelling style. Like noted in the presentation section, the presentation feels dynamic. It blends excellently with the writing style and makes everything flow to each other wonderfully. I've said this several times over now between these two reviews, so I don't think I'll need to elaborate further. Outside of that, some restrictions to enjoying the experience is sort of the formulaic nature of the story. In Extra, each girl has their own plot that leads towards an ending, and they definitely feel a notch more on the cliche side. The story is held up by the character interactions, the mystery aspect of the main routes, but when one of those is lost, well, it's still interesting, but it really doesn't hold up to the high quality that the rest of the game holds. For Unlimited, it has sort of similar formula problems. After a few plot stages that act as an introduction to the world and the first major plot turning point, the story falls into minorly connected side stories that build into a decision to choose the ending. Unlimited side story adventures really do have a bit more to hold themselves up than Extras did, like the premise as well as the setting and the more integrated connection to the main story, but the downfalls are still pretty clearly making them side stories. Generally, I wouldn't say that the formulaic nature doesn't take much away from the overall experience. The vast majority of the time, the parts of the story that hold everything up are present and in force. Additionally, the even less enticing sections are still pretty interesting on their own. They are just hurt by the comparison to the interest level that the main stories create. Overall, Muv-Luv is flawed, but it's still extremely enjoyable. It doesn't do much to shy away from its flaws, and that could definitely be off-putting for some. Muv-Luv is an excellent outlet for those who just want excellent characters and a good story. Well, most of it is. Well, at least the main routes are. The side ones are pretty good, but maybe not that level. I enjoyed it thoroughly with its immersive storytelling about the characters in 2 different genres. But there's more to it than that. It has a lot of baggage, and it can tend to drown itself in its own flair at times. Between formulaic story structures and a genre shift that can feasibly be off-putting without prior knowledge, and the fact that it's probably best experienced without prior knowledge, Muv-Luv is far less than perfect. As much as it does right, it doesn't quite get the refined quality needed for my top of the genre rating. I really do love the game, but I can't say I do more than call it a recommended experience. If you like visual novels, it's definitely one on the required reading list. The hype around the series comes from its follow-up alternative. Both Extra and Unlimited are high quality enough to delve in on your own for. And recommendations. I will start with Steins Gate. And I will say it's similar in that it starts off with much less main story driving parts that build up characters and their interactions, and you have a lot of fun with that, and then you use those characters built up to make everything else much more impactful down the line, which is basically what seems like Muv-Luv's doing, and it will be similar in that respect, and yeah. The other one I would suggest, I haven't finished this. I'm actually in the progress of doing a playthrough of this Precise series. I haven't done a ton of it, but it really gives me Muv-Luv Extra vibes from the very beginning, so I can't speak much more on it because I haven't done too much, and I don't really have much else that would be good to recommend for this. Either way, that's all I've got. I'll see you all next time. Drive safely.